side.
Good, very good, very good. And no one could see me because it was in the shadow.
That gives a nice different perspective, eh? One night I will take 2 or 3 moments out of the whole show, and focus on those moments and get them to work. And then in the day I go back to my script and I put those moments in the script. So I've been working on that all day, or every day. So now the script is right, it's tight, the cuts are there. The good laughs are restructured so that I don't kill the laughs with information. Right, let's go. Grab the goods. Genocide in this century is not going to be recognizable. It's not going to be trains going into camps, because we've seen Schindler's List. It's not going to be Rwanda, Burundi, because we've seen Hotel Rwanda. We've seen it on television over breakfast. Genocide is ignore them and they will go away. Just do not help and they will die. That's genocide. That's genocide. Are we going to lose 20 million people in the next 10 years? Are we going to sit together in 10 years and say, Jesus Christ, why didn't we do something? And I'm not going to wait for 20 years. There are things that have to be said. And if the confusion is very strong when people say, but who said that? Did Evita say that? Did Pieter-Dirk say that? Who the hell is he? He's just a house clown. As the minister, Esther Pahad, said, you're a house clown. You must stick to making jokes. Yeah, well, the joke is not my mouth, it's your ear. You decide what's the joke. Because most of the things I say are not jokes. They're the truth, but the truth can be very funny.
You are very generous. You have done a wonderful work, too, and we're proud of you. And I mean it when I say you are one of my heroes.
When I was 15 years old, I saw a show that changed my life. One man on stage, Pieter-Dirk Uys. Bald, middle-aged, overweight. I knew nothing about Peter when the stage lights went up. When the lights came down, I wanted to know everything. Peter is a political satirist. In the 1980s, he was the most outspoken opponent of apartheid, South Africa's policy of racial segregation. He could have been killed for the things he said. He got away with it for one reason.
Sawubona, Dumela, Molo, hello. I am Mrs. Evita Besaidnout, and I am the South African ambassador to the independent homeland of Babetiko Sweti.
This was no standard drag act, no way. Evita became South Africa's most famous white woman.
Well, you can't always agree with her, but she's a force to be reckoned with.
Daai ou ding, my man wil haar. I want to hit her.
She's mad.
He is an institution. We owe a great deal to him or her. I don't know. What? Him, her? I weet nie. But it was fantastic in the dark old days of apartheid. He was one of the few who could take the mickey out of the ruling party. And he has continued, because he does it even now after freedom has come. We would have been a great deal the poorer without him, and we are greatly enriched. I'm glad he's on my side.
This is a totally democratic virus. This virus doesn't stand back for children or for Christians. This virus doesn't stand back for presidents or pop stars. This is one virus that at the moment has no cure. No specific cure, but it has care. I think if you put your arms around somebody who's frightened, you help them lose their fear. And when you lose your fear, you become less fearful, and then nothing can frighten you. And that was the only thing I had in my days as a young South African, and I tried to pretend that I was not involved with this terrible thing that was happening around us, called apartheid, the first virus. And I found the way to actually confront my fear, and that was humor. This incredible weapon to laugh at your fear, to make that fear less fearful. It doesn't go away. I don't want to die of AIDS. It's not impossible. I'm 59 years old. I'd been practicing sex for a hell of a long time. And so I thought the first thing to do is to go to where the kids are that have not yet been there. And just to cut to the car chase, in the last 4 years, I've met 1 million school kids. 1 million kids! Backgrounds of violence, of crime, of corruption, of fear, of all the things that we people think can't happen to us. It's happening to them. And you know, they are so excited to live. Hey, I want to be a kwaito singer. You can become a kwaito singer. You can become a doctor. You can become a teacher. You must never, ever forget that. You are the most important person. You are the most important. You are as important as Thabo Mbeki. You are as important as Nelson Mandela. You are as important as our Minister of Health. And thank you think you're more important. I think you should be the Minister of Health as soon as possible. Never ever forget that you are the future of this country. Without you, there is no South Africa. And therefore, you mustn't be frightened of a virus. You mustn't be frightened of life. It's a very exciting life because you can make your dreams come true. I want to point out somebody who's here. Where is he? There he is. This chap's name is Julian Shaw. Behind the camera now, Julian is from Australia. And when I met Julian, he was 15 years old. I was doing a show in Australia. And he came to the show with his parents. And after the show, he came to me and he said, I want to make a documentary film about what you do with the young people in South Africa. I said, oh, how old are you, Julian? He said, I'm 15. I said, oh, you want to make a film? He said, yes. I said, why didn't you come to South Africa? Okay. He did. He did. He came to South Africa with his camera and he said, hi, Peter, I'm here. And he's been with me now for the last 2 years making a documentary film about us and about hope and about optimism. Desmond Tutu proved one thing, that practice makes perfect. You practice humanity long enough, you become a pretty perfect human being. And you know, I love him more than anybody else in the world because Desmond Tutu was the first black person I did in my show. Because I never did black people in my show in the 1980s because I wasn't a black people. Until Desmond Tutu came to me and he said, why am I not in your show? It's so nice to do a man who wears a dress. Let us realize that we're free. Free at last! And so let us pay tribute. Give us this day our antiretrovirus. And lead us not into denials and hypocrisies, but deliver us from this terrible genocide. Because in your hands alone lies the power to prevent AIDS from succeeding where apartheid failed. Forever and ever. Amen.
South Africans sort of have a naughty kid streak in them, and that's what Peter appeals to. He likes to tread on taboos and take risks, and people applaud him for that. He just would never give in. They did everything they could to shut him down, and he just had that. He didn't sort of intellectualize, just had that twinkling spirit that set everybody on fire and kept them on his side against the old spoilsports who were trying to kill him.
To understand Pieter-Dirk Uys, you have to rewind to where it all began. 1976, the Soweto Uprising. Black youths protested against being taught in Afrikaans in their schools. They rose up against the police. Armed with tear gas and guns, the police fired at the children. After the massacre, South Africa was a very different place. The white nationalist government cracked down on everything. Criticising the government could get the brakes on your car cut, or worse. The president at the time was P.W. Botha.
persoonlike kapasiteit nie. Ek sê dit vanaand. Ook namens die duisende ander in hierdie land wat dit graag wil sê. En sê ek dit hier vandag, dames en here, met liefde. Suid-Afrika is Suid-Afrika is Suid-Afrika is Suid-Afrika is Suid-Afrika is Suid-Afrika is
In the old days, I used to wear makeup when I did P.W. Botha. Now I even look like the old fucker. AIDS in South Africa has become so political because it is totally political. I mean, our president and our Minister of Health have made it the most offensive political target at the moment. In my shows, I will talk about that, and it will become a political reflection. But with the schools, with the young people, it can't be. It's got nothing to do with politics. It's to do with life. It's to do with hope. It's to do with stigma. It's to do with their everyday lives, which are not political. Very few schools have a political slant. When you go to university, it's slightly different because it is a little bit more grown up when it comes to politics because they voted. These kids haven't voted yet, so they've not been there. And I'm very careful not to subject them to my political background or my likes and dislikes. Very seldom make comments about the president. I don't think it's polite to actually badmouth the president of South Africa to kids who actually aren't quite sure why I'm doing it. I make jokes about the Minister of Health. They all know because it's obvious why we are in trouble because she's not giving leadership. But that's a very short little 1 minute moment and then move on from there.
This place was like a different universe to the one I'd been living in. I felt I was in way over my head. I must have filled up 30 books with notes. One question kept coming up. Everybody knows Nelson Mandela, but not everybody knows Thabo Mbeki, the man who succeeded him as president in 1999. Thabo Mbeki is Western educated, but clearly obsessed with African Renaissance. For South Africans, there's a lot to like about Thabo Mbeki. During his presidency, he reduced inflation and carved chunks off the budget deficit. He is a powerful orator.
underlying cause of reduced life expectancy.
But the unemployment rate under Mbeki reached a peak of 40%. In his first 5 years in cabinet, and despite a country with around 4.7 million citizens infected with HIV, President Mbeki refused to treat the crisis seriously by rolling out antiretroviral treatment.
The government published last February a report by Stat South Africa, which counted 3 million death certificates between 1997 and 2001. And it showed that in 1997, the majority of people died when they were well over their 60s. Today, the majority of people die in the adult age set, 30 to 34. And more people die in their 20s than people in their 70s. So the question that we have to say is, where is the justice for those people? More people are dying in our country today than ever died under apartheid.
In June 1999, Manto Shabalala Misamang was appointed as Minister of Health in Mbeki's ANC government. Despite the country being ravaged by HIV/AIDS, Manto was equally reluctant in her first 5 years to roll out antiretroviral drugs. It was only in 2002 that the South African cabinet officially recognised that HIV did in fact cause AIDS. In a budget speech on the 8th of April 2005, Shabalala Missamang reported that the government had established at least one antiretroviral service point in each of the 53 districts in the country. 53 service points for a country of 40 million? The Minister of Health never declared a state of emergency, which got me thinking. If you kind of had one message to send to the Minister of Health, what is it in a nutshell?
Resign. No, I would. Just get the hell out of here. Get the hell out of here. Take your pension and fuck off. Bad news. Well, you know, it's just interesting because all these things just add to a future accusation of genocide, and they all go to The Hague. You can't do that. You can't do what we're doing here, what's happening here. 700 people dying every day because they're not being helped. They're not being helped. They're being confused and frightened, and they die, and they shouldn't die. Can't do that. Can't do that. As a politician in a democracy, I'm sorry, no, you can't do that.
On the 18th of March 2004, Shabalala Missamang suggested to local paper Die Burger that a good diet, including garlic and olive oil, was likely to be as effective as antiretroviral drugs in treating the HIV virus.
She is a danger to public health, and she has caused the deaths of thousands of South Africans.
Hello?
If you leave Cape Town and drive along the N7 towards Malmesbury, you'll find a tiny hamlet called Darling. This is where Peter lives. It makes sense.
Okay, darling, geniet je dag. Bye, bye.
Peter points out that he's not the star of the town. She is.
There you are. Welcome. My name is Evita Besaidnout, and I'm known as the most famous white woman in South Africa. And you are now at Evita se Perron, which is the name of my lovely little place here. Of course, the word perron is the Afrikaans word for station platform, because this used to be Darling Station. And you know, we used to have passenger trains that arrived here every single day from Cape Town. Of course, those were the days that very few people had the vote. Now, of course, everybody in South Africa has the vote. And there are no more passenger trains. Yes. Say close the close. Hello, little stinkies, down. Ah, my children. Oh, my little girl. What's it, little bird? Look at your little bird. Yes. Yes. Oh, my birdies, come. Little things. People have accused me of being an incredible self-promoter. Well, I'm not. Nobody knows about my private life. Nobody knows anything about me. And nobody comes to my house with a camera except you. I've just had my third play banned by the censor board, which was very tough because it wasn't a joke. There were no T-shirts. People didn't want me to allow me into their homes because I was a communist and a terrorist, and my father chucked me out as well. Take your communist filth, get out. So
he had police plants put on him, he had extortionists, he had fake accidents in cars staged for him, and all sorts of, you know, falls off mountainsides and things like that planned for him that truly endangered his life. And he was slim enough, as we say, of Afrikaners, to sniff these things out and avoid them.
Then I saw on the front page of the newspaper, Afrikaans newspaper, they were looking for Afrikaners of vooraanstaande, prominent Afrikaans, people of class, to be members of the censor board. And I phoned my dad and I said, listen, have you seen the paper? Why didn't you join the censor board? You like movies and you'll see them free before they're censored. And he went.
Slim is smart, like, you're dealing with the smartest guy in the business.
And within 3 weeks, his attitude towards me changed. I mean, there he was meeting the people that had banned my plays, and he said to me, why are you even scared of these people? They're drunks, they're arseholes, they're fools, they don't know what they're doing. And he got terribly angry. He said, because they're butchering my favorite films, they're cutting things. I love these movies, and they don't know, and that changed our relationship, and also gave me the insight into the need for humor.
He would make light of it, especially in the days when he was writing columns about current events. It was like a running gag, my father, the censor.
He said, make fun of these fools. They can't take laughter. Learn the law. So I got the Publications Act, and I learned it so well that I knew exactly where all the pitfalls were. And I would trap them with their own law because they didn't know their law. And that's the one thing I've learned about politicians. They don't know their job.
I sensed that in fact was the really electric root of his talent. A conflict like that was not only wrenching him, but feeding him.
No, there wasn't serious conflict. There was fear. He was terrified of what I was doing because it was dangerous. He was much more frightened. And he had relatives in the government who used to threaten him and say, you better do something, otherwise you will suffer unless you could lose your house. We will put the pressure on you.
I just said to him, please, I'm terribly worried, and perhaps don't say that or don't do that. And Peter just said, darling, don't worry, it's fine.
It was just, they were fucking pigs. They were such slime bags. All of them were just some revolting bastards. I'm so glad they're all dead.
He replied with a kind of affirmative gay venom, if you like, in reprisal. That's why his shows were so incredibly lethal and hard-hitting.
I'm sorry my father's dead. He was not a slime bag. He was a fabulous man. But those other relatives, those cousins and those, fuck them.
Peter turned this animus, the hostility that he felt, and the very real opposition to his being as a half Afrikaans, half German, gay person, very talented, very musical, very able, wonderful mimic. He just turned around and bit the hand that fed him.
Welcome, you're watching 3 Talk right here on SABC 3. I'm your host, Nolene Maolwana Sangu. Today we pay tribute to a South African legend. His characters have created many laughs and are even considered instrumental in the transformation of our political system. Born in 1945 in Cape Town, Pieter-Dirk Uys has been in the theatre for almost 40 years. That's a lifetime.
It is. It's all I can do. And yet it's been the most exciting, wonderful, obstacle course of madness and taking chances and taking a deep breath and hoping for the best.
Scotty, that is God Save the Queen. We are a republic. There are no queens in South Africa.
Beginning as a character in a newspaper column in the late 70s, Evita finally first appeared on stage in 1982 in a production called Adapt or Die. And she arrived at the theatre in costume. Peter did not go to the dressing room and get into costume and come out onto the stage. Mrs. Evita Besaidnout arrived in a pink Cadillac and got out and walked through the crowds of her opening night and walked into the main theatre of the Market Theatre, and her show began.
Nice big earrings. Earrings. I actually started as a stage manager in the theatre. I mean, when I went to drama school, they said I don't have talent, so I must be a stage manager, which was the best thing that happened to me, because I'm a qualified technician. I can set up a stage, I can do lights, I can do sound, I can make costumes, I can set props.
En nou gebruik ons 'n lekker stukkie Afrika materiaal en al wat jy doen is jy maak hom.
It's also a style. I mean, I've got a style now, and I know I've got a sort of a style of transparency, theatrical transparency, meaning that I don't need blackouts. I don't hide anything. I don't go behind the screen. I take off, I put on, you see me do that.
What have I forgotten? Wat moet ik nog doen? Die haren!
Evita also. You want to see Evita? I can sit here with all the makeup on and everything. She won't be here. But then I know how to put her on, and I summons the spirit. It's magic, it's black magic, it's sorcery. It is sorcery.
What were you like as a child?
You know, very shy, and really, truly a very good little Afrikaans kid, I suppose. I just was a...
And listen to Pa and Ma.
I had a great Pa and Ma. They'd never forced me to listen to anything. We shared things. They were musicians, pianists. My best friend was Mozart when I was a kid. I grew up with Mozart.
Mother was born in Berlin in 1908. She was a very fine pianist, and because of the Hitler and the Third Reich and the Nazis, she had to flee, and she came to South Africa in 1936 with her piano.
Tessie learned to play on that piano, and the piano's been like the greatest symbol of our family and our lives. My mother committed suicide, eventually died, very shockingly. You know, you don't recover from that. No, you don't. You don't. You don't. You just have a big hole in your vision where your mother's face was, and you just got to put a frame around it and just say that's precious and that's what happened. But there's nothing you can do to forget it or pretend it didn't happen or explain it. You can't explain it. You can't explain it. You just live with it.
Network, and every Friday we talk about life in South Africa.
Thank you, darling. My father eventually died, and my sister lives in London. She's a concert pianist. And the extraordinary thing is she was in Berlin a few months ago at the Jewish Museum, and they actually said to her, after much discussion about the background of my family, the piano, send the piano back to Berlin. So I'm an Afrikaner Jew, meaning I belong to both chosen people, so that's always very nice.
Peter used to play with my dolls. I used to play with his cars. You know, I wore his dresses, he wore mine, and all that sort of thing. You know, we just had a lot of fun.
We used to do lots of fancy dresses.
We had many, many fancy dresses, and it was such fun.
And Pa used to make the costume out of crinkle paper. You were a flower.
I was a sunflower. Yeah, I remember I was a sunflower, and he made this beautiful sunflower, and it had a green stem. And I went to my school, and then this dog thought I was a plant and lifted his leg, and the crinkle paper went white, and I cried.
And the color ran out. HIV and AIDS happens through two major things: blood and semen. Blood and semen. Now, blood, we know what is semen. Semen is semen. Those are the two areas, and they are all united in one action, and that action is called sex. Now, sex happens even in Darling. Sex even happens in the backyard of the president's office. Sex happens. It is a crime against God to have sex across the color bar. How dare they? What rubbish, what absolute crap. Democracy means politics no longer kills, it just irritates. That's normal, that's democratic. We have got so many possibilities to grow as a nation. My passion is to use my alphabet of entertainment to make my audiences relax into listening to the fact that they don't want to hear what I want to say. People don't want to hear about AIDS, they don't want to hear about it. I mean, it is such a turn-off because people are bored by it, because it is a lecture. And it is a moral thing, like, if you have sex, you will die. What rubbish. It's got nothing to do with sex. It's to do with hygiene. It's like brushing your teeth. If you don't brush your teeth, you lose your teeth. If you don't look after yourself, you will lose your life and certainly lose your health.
This is one of those few antiretroviral service points.
Before I eat those tablets, They first educate me with that tablets. I didn't feel I'm gonna die, you see. I was only just said, it's only God knows. But as far as I'm concerned, I know the doctors, he want to help my life. I'm gonna eat those tablets for the rest of my life. So to prevent the disease, so that I can be alive for more than 10 or 20 years. I take 2 in the morning and I take 3 in the evening, afternoon. So from now on, he's gonna use a HIV and AIDS treatment for the rest of his life, just like me.
But now we are a democracy. So now I can go for the mock in democracy and expose the con in reconciliation.
The post-94 Pieter-Dirk Uys has taken on this social reformer role, which is a bit new. I think maybe social reform has moved more to the front and the entertainer has moved a bit to the back, which I'm not altogether in favor of. I think entertaining itself can be wonderfully subversive. But he's taken on this AIDS education thing because it is currently the most important issue facing the country. So he's got his puppets out of his wardrobe and is pulling the strings again, not in the old ways. His characters have new profiles and are taking on new issues.
Nou ja, Thabo, here we are together. Can you believe it? My name is an anagram for your name, eh? And vice versa. I just want to start off by saying that when I was president, I always had the cooperation of most South African blacks.
In 1999, our president, Thabo Mbeki, became an AIDS denialist. That is, someone who believes that HIV does not cause AIDS. And he relied particularly on US, on Australian, and other quacks who don't believe that HIV causes AIDS.
How is it possible, Thabo, that you've been responsible for the deaths of more blacks than I was? We are not responsible for their deaths, Pieter. We let them die by themselves. We let them die by themselves? Yes, of course. Ignore them and they will go away.
Many of Mbeki's countrymen didn't seem to understand their president any better than I did. This is a taxi driver I spoke to in 2004.
I had 2 sisters. Now I had 3 sisters. Now I left with 1 sister because 2 of them, they died just because of AIDS. And the government never gave them anything. We tried to buy something for AIDS, like tablets, but it's too expensive. We can't afford to pay it, so.
And then we do nothing. You do nothing? No, nothing.
How do you feel when Thabo Mbeki says that he doesn't know anyone with AIDS?
I was shocked. I was very, very shocked. Plus, my sisters that time when he say that my sister, she was sick that time, and she also heard on the news and she cried. She cried because she was saying why Thabo Mbeki as a president say nobody got AIDS in South Africa, because we know the truth.
On Sunday the 23rd of February 2003, Pieter ignored his own advice. He pressed send. He was pissed off.
Well, the reaction was absolutely, it was like, it was turmoil and horrible. My reaction was as well, was a turmoil. I hated using that word, terrible word. And I keep on saying, prove me wrong, and I apologize for the rest of my life.
There's 700,000 people who need treatment today. In the public sector, there are only 100,000 people on treatment. But if we as an organization did everything in our power, we would not be able to put more than 50,000 people on treatment. The government, the state, with its resources, by lifting its little finger and dragging its feet at the same time, has put 100,000 people on treatment. So from a strategic and tactical point of view, I've never said publicly until last year that our government was committing genocide.
And if it offends people that I've used that word, then tough tits. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong.
You are taking structured negligence and solving all your problems. Because you know the poor will die, the unemployed will die, the street children will die, and all those little AIDS orphans will die. And then you'll be stuck with a nation of 20 million South Africans who can read and write, who will pay their taxes on time and who could afford their own antiretroviral drugs. Magis Taba, I wish I thought of something like that myself.
Maybe when you play this cassette, your government will hear, and then they can tell Thabo Mbeki, or contact him to tell him that you see your people are dying. We got the proof.
Thabo, what name will you give your final solution? I thought that was obvious, Pieter. Genocide? No, no. We call it democracy.
With the golden hair cascading over the luscious firm breast with the purple nipples. Sex will happen. Sex will happen, and if you don't know what it is, it can be a very frightening experience. And today, most of us depend on free condoms because government must help here, because people say condoms are too expensive. I have a problem with that, quite frankly, because the lottery is also expensive, and cell phones are expensive, and they don't save your life. And a condom that you know is safe will save your life. We're using language to focus on the minefield of fear, and for God's sake, use language, because we can't be polite. There's no time to be polite. We've got to say that's where the danger is. And talk to the kids like adults, for goodness sake. I mean, treat them like human beings, not like children. Children are far ahead of us. The kids are far ahead of us.
You know, because like our parents are not really open with us and they don't really say things like that. And it was actually quite a good encouragement for the man to come to our school and actually talk in front of our teachers, because our teachers would be like, whoa, we don't talk about things like that. See?
When I go to the schools with my AIDS awareness entertainment, and I always have to qualify that, it's an entertainment, meaning the kids have got to laugh at their fear, but I have to entertain them with death, because it's about HIV and AIDS, and it's about the fact that most of them are terrified of it because many of them have got HIV and have lost people. But I've got to really be on my toes, because the moment I bore them, they turn their back on me and play with their SMSs and they make cell phone calls. So I don't actually have a script. I don't actually I have a structure and possibilities. I have 6 characters on a table. But I have to listen very carefully, because each school is from a different background, not just a different ethnic background. Some schools are Xhosa, Zulu, some schools are Indian, some schools are Malay, Muslim schools, Christian schools, Afrikaans schools, white schools, or mixed schools, first world schools, where the kids actually have a very, very international education. So I must listen to their reaction, and sometimes I start something and I suddenly realize they don't know what I'm talking about, because I'm talking about cyber language, IT, computers, and they don't have them. They don't know what it means. Or I have to be very careful not to ignore the fact that some of them have different problems. Like one school will have a mandrake's culture, meaning the drugs, or it will be marijuana, or another school is in the clutches of gang warfare, or another school has a teacher that rapes the kids.
Nothing is going right here in Atlantis.
The people get shot here.
We get shot out children. Drugs.
16-year-old children killed here.
Sitting in the beans. No work. No. Oh, you want to go?
The rape. Just what happened here?
This is the raping spot. There's gangsters taking the
like children like this. They're taking this bush and they're raping there. They kill the children.
So
Oh God.
So the hole is like this deep. It's like burying the
children
children
there.
inside it.
The lungs are still full of sand because that just to show you that the person was still alive when she was buried.
One way I found out information before the time was actually to phone the people from the clinics, the medical clinics in the townships, the community clinics, and sort of say, I'm coming to the school, please come, I want to meet you, but I want you to listen to what I say and tell me what I'm doing wrong. I said, I'm not a medical expert like Thabo and Becky. I don't know anything other than to entertain people, make them listen, and in this case I'm trying to make them listen to information that might save their lives. But I mustn't give them wrong information. Also tell me what is the background to the school community. And that's what's really made this thing work for me, is because before the show, I meet the district nurses, I meet the doctors, I meet the people who are extraordinary people. The moment they've told me, I know where to pitch. I only recently understood the significance of the Femidom. First of all, the packaging is very nice. Female condom. But then when you open it up, your heart nearly stops. Ek dog, hel! Hoe werk so 'n ding? 'n Mens kan 'n visie invang, hè? The Femidom is a remarkable reaction that I'm getting from it. Why do so few young women know about the Femidom? Look, it's not perfect. It's really swimming in a raincoat. It's horrible. But, for God's sake, we put a man on the moon.
It looks very big. I don't yeah, it looks very kind of daunting. I think maybe there should be like more information on that, you know, just to kind of get the whole stigma off it, because now it looks very intimidating to me personally. If anyone gave me that, I'd be like, oh, thanks, but I'll pass. No, but if just with a little more information and just, you know, yeah.
And the girls want to be in charge of their own protection. Women, you, your mothers, your grannies, your sisters, your friends, just think how many women can be protected if they were in charge of themselves. If women could get female condoms and look after their own protection and not have to wait for a man to do it, because men don't do it. So ladies, ask questions about this. Look, this is not perfect. Lots of work has to be done here. We've got to spend a lot of money on this, not give money to Mugabe, but spend money on making this thing perfect. But ask questions. This is what your rights mean. Your rights in a democracy mean that you can ask any question you like. If you don't know what's going on, you say, excuse me, could you explain this to me? You've got very, very good people at the school who know how to answer your questions. If they don't know the right answer, they will find the right answer.
Most of the time the topics are too serious, the children don't understand what the people are saying, and the terms used also, it's beyond them. And he comes to the children, he speaks the language that they understand, and it touches them in a way that they know.
I didn't know, like, there were female condoms. I knew, but I never knew how they looked and stuff. Yeah.
When the kids ask me questions, I don't give them answers. I ask the question again of them. When they say to me, is oral sex safe? I say, well, what do you think? And they say, well, we don't know. I said, well, what is oral sex? And they say, well, you know. I said, no, tell me, what is it? They said, it's a penis in the mouth. I said, no, an erect penis. Yeah, but they're embarrassed to start with. The moment you start talking about it just as a description of an act, it becomes a description. Does the penis have a condom on? No, they say, you don't suck a lollipop in the plastic cover. And then you say, okay, in the morning do you brush your teeth? Yes, I brush my teeth. And do you gargle? Yes. And then what happens? Do you sometimes find that you've got bleeding gums? Yes. Why? Well, we scratch the gums with a toothbrush. I said, now you've got a cut in your gums with blood and you've got an erect penis without a condom. Don't you think that there's a connection here? And they think for a moment and they say, oh, now that's the thing, is they've answered their own question. And I think that is the most important thing, not to be a 59-year-old adult treating a 9-year-old child like a child. I've got to be 10 years old and those children must feel 12.
I didn't know that I can go outside wearing a condom.
and then if the person rapes me, then I'm protected from AIDS, you know? So I think it was great because of that.
I have heard from 2 or 3 young women who, after I'd spoken to them, they were very, very taken by that, never thought of it, and they did have a condom with, and they were beaten by their parents. I was very upset by that. I make a point of, when I speak to parents now, to say to them, be very, very careful, because you might actually be cancelling out something that might save your child's life. Don't think your child is promiscuous just because she's got a condom in her bag. She might be protecting herself. My AIDS awareness presentation. If it's too big, it'll fall off. If it's too small, it'll break, and then the virus gets in. Let's underline what this is all about. The virus gets into your body and changes your life forever. You don't need that.
And because it was so different, it gave something inspiring to us that we as young people can also do the same thing that Peter is doing.
I found this in Amsterdam in a shop. They said, these are the condoms they use in Uganda. Yeah, well, I mean, this is a... Nogal lekker, né? I showed this to a school in Khayelitsha last week, and one of the chaps said, yeah, bra Pete, I'll wear that outside my trousers!
Peter's performance today, you know, that show will be remembered like for many years to come, because some of the people in that hall, you know, were here 4 years ago, and they still remember what Peter had to say, you know. Yeah. So I mean, Peter has actually left a mark in their minds and in their lives.
It's fascinating how, like today, you always looked at AIDS as like an epidemic, you know, and you forgot that there were actually people behind the disease, you know. So I'm actually going to tell it like there's actually people, the people, you know, they're still human beings and stuff. So I'm going to tell it like to not just tell about AIDS is that you just got to learn about the people, because then if you just learn about AIDS, there's no good, because you got to support the people that has the thing, you know.
Talk. To talk is to know. The moment you start talking about it, the moment the information becomes the knowledge, you immediately see the light at the end of the tunnel.
In South Africa today, we're going through a process in which we're losing nurses, we're losing teachers, we're losing policemen, but most importantly, we're losing a generation of women and men, but mainly women, who are critical to the socialization process of children and to imparting values of social cohesion. The absence of that creates a vacuum in a society of people with values. And the problem is that there's a continuity there, that under apartheid, black people's lives were valueless. Black people's dignity was not regarded as something important. And so now you have that continuity that all life and all value, but particularly again, the people who suffer most are poor and working class black men and women. And so the tragedy is that we will live in a society where it's everyone against everyone else.
Do you know how the colors of Evita's eyes are different to mine? Look, they're green. My eyes are brown. You can see it?
Wow, yeah.
And when she's not here, I'll show you. I've got brown eyes, I don't understand that. When you say what's going to happen to Evita Besaidnout as a character, I don't know. Politics will lead her. If Thabo Mbeki appoints her as the ambassador to Australia, she'll have to go. I want to leave the jokes, the lines. You know, hypocrisy is the Vaseline of political intercourse. A great line. Let people steal it and use it forever. Love your enemy, it'll ruin his reputation. You know, and the reminder of how great guardian angels flew across our heavens. Nelson Mandela and Desmond Tutu, two specific, extraordinary spirits that we gifted. What did we do to deserve two of the most extraordinary people in the history of the world? And there are many. I mean, this country is filled with the most extraordinary people. I mean, the nurses in the clinics, the home care workers, the teachers, the policemen, the people who help each other. Fabulous, great people. They haven't got publicity, they're not on this show. Nobody knows their names. They don't have photographs in the newspaper, but they do it every day. Nobody thanks them, nobody pays them, but they're there every day. And that's the legacy.
Who is Pieter-Dirk Uys? To me, he's a dissenter and a patriot. He's a naughty schoolboy, and the conscience of a country. He says he's a loner, but I wonder if he's just lonely. The enigma of Peter is that whilst claiming to need no one, he is the darling of South Africa. Peter says he doesn't know if what he's doing is making a difference. For me, the answer is obvious.
Where's the success in this? Is it working? I don't know if this is working. Going to schools, talking to kids, I don't know. I'll tell you in 20 years' time. And yet last year on AIDS Day, I was here in Rosebank, going to the mall, and 5 young South Africans came towards me, and as they passed me, the young black man said, "Hey, Pieter-Dirk Uys! Hey man, do you remember me?" I said, "Help me here?" He said, "3 years ago, you came to my school in the township in Grahamstown. You came with your AIDS show in the Bibizonani Hall. Do you remember?" I said, "Oh my God, it was so hot." He said, "Hey Peter, it was so hot. You remember?" And I sat on the floor and you looked at me 3 times. "You must remember me." I said, "Of course I remember you. How are you?" He said, "Oh, Peter man, look at me. I'm still alive."